Welcome back to the Sports Trigger, everyone. Today we are doing our second straight week of picks. Travis, are you ready to get some college football picks in?
Oh yeah, let's talk some football.
Welcome back to the Sports Trigger, everyone. Travis, this is our second week of making college football picks. Last week, I went 4 for 4. I'm going to throw that out there. You didn't fare so well. We're going to put it, it's a long season. Have several more weeks. So
the only place I have to go is up from here, Jared.
it's a way to set the bar low so you can move up. Let's start Utah versus Arizona this weekend. Little interesting just because Zona is coming off a huge blowout win. Utah, we don't really know too much about right now. Utah is at 3.5-point favorites right now, over and under 57. Which way you going there?
I'm going to go with Utah, and that's primarily because, they've been here before to where they've seen success. They have a long tenure head coach. I actually saw the other day to where they have one of the most longest tenured head coaches for their position, so that's pretty impressive. And, Arizona, yes, they did just beat up on, was it UTEP, I believe, and their quarterback Dawkins, pretty amazing. I saw a stat to where he was only one of 6 players in the past, I believe it was 20 years at least, that's thrown for 3 touchdown passes, rushed for 3, and put up so many yards passing and rushing. But I got to go with Utah, and that's actually in part because I know that one of the Bama quarterbacks transferred to Utah, and they didn't get the starting job, which is hilarious. So. But Utah, there's just something about them. Usually they're consistent, and even though it's at Zona, I got to go with Utah.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think Utah, they might not. I'm going to go ahead and say they cover the 3.5 points. I just can't put faith in Rich Rod. Obviously, I'm a Michigan fan, and just no faith in Rich Rod. So I'm going Utah there, taking them to at least cover the 3.5 points. The next game that we have moving on here is a battle of kind of the teams that just let you down. Well, not necessarily just the teams, but the coaches as well, who had kind of high hopes, who talked a lot of talk, and they just haven't backed it up. So we're going TAMU versus Arkansas. TAMU is actually 2.5-point favorites right now. Over under is 55. Interesting enough. Who are you going with on this one? Because I know where I'm going.
That is tough. I just don't have any faith in TAMU, especially after what happened opening week against UCLA. Granted, Rosen's a top quarterback, but I'm going to go Hog Suey on this one. I'm going to go with Brett Bielema. I don't have a valid reason other than it's just hard to unsee what I saw with TAMU giving up that huge lead to UCLA. So I'm going to go Hog Suey. I'm going to go with Arkansas.
Yeah, you know what? Unfortunately, I'm going to agree with you here. I think TAMU's kind of shattered. They're kind of like, what are we going to do? Sumlin, he's kind of, maybe in disarray right now. Arkansas is not any better.
Right.
But you know what? I think Arkansas is the better football team. So I agree. Even if TAMU was going to win, they probably wouldn't cover. So I'm going to go with Arkansas on this one. I'm going to agree with that. The next one's a rivalry game. We have Duke versus UNC in football. Who knew we'd be talking about that? Duke 2.5-point favorites right now. 67 is the over and under. Who do you got on this one?
I've been picking against Duke the past couple weeks, and I've learned my lesson. Even though North Carolina had a great showing last weekend, I got to go with Duke. I'm not going to question Cutcliffe anymore. They seem to have a balanced attack going. Granted, it's at North Carolina, but obviously there's going to be plenty of Duke contingent there. But I'm going to go with Duke in this one.
Oh, wow. They'd stay undefeated, wouldn't they? And they actually look pretty good. I'm going to say, they beat Northwestern pretty handedly at the beginning of the year. But I think Northwestern, as we've kind of seen, they aren't great. And so I'm going to go UNC here. I think UNC gets the win. So I'm going to go against you here. But yeah, I think UNC has a decent defense. Their offense will be hitting on cylinders, and they'll get the win this year. Moving on to our next one. This is a good game, I think, regardless of what the spread says right now. TCU versus your national champion pick, Okie State.
Yes, Okie State.
14-point favorites, Okie State, even though TCU hasn't lost.
That's surprising. And I think that a lot of that is because their defense gave up so many points to SMU last week. Granted, they scored plenty of points, but and Oklahoma State's defense, they're definitely not world beaters by any means, but they've definitely turned the ball over, or I should say have caused turnovers all last week. They had a couple picks against Pitt. So, I mean, they're my national title pick. I gotta stick with them. They're at home. Mason Rudolph, the offense is clicking, so I'm definitely going Okie State. I don't necessarily think they're going to cover. I think around 10 points or so, but I definitely have to go with Okie State.
Oh, I'm going Okie State, and they're going to cover. I think they at least win by 17. I didn't think that way at first because I thought TCU would be sneaky good this year, but looking at it was, TCU's quarterback stats outside of, playing against SMU. Like, he has these amazing stats against SMU, and against everybody else, it was like mediocre, terrible, throwing a lot of picks. So I think, even one or two turnovers here, he'll probably turn it over 2 times at least. I think he'll throw at least 2 picks, and with 2 turnovers, that's probably 14 points that you're giving up. Okie State's looking really strong. They're carrying off all the momentum from last year. I haven't seen any blips, and they're probably one of the few teams so far this year that you've seen them just continue to click on all cylinders, especially on offense. So I'm going to go with Okie State to win and win big, even though I do think TCU is a decent team. They're just catching Okie State at a very bad time. Moving on to our second to last one here. This could be a very intriguing game. Georgia, Mississippi State. Georgia's the favorite right now at 5 points. I'm going Mississippi State. The only way they lose is if it is a really close game. So Georgia, there's no way in my mind that they cover at the -5. But I'm going Mississippi State. I think they are the best team over in the East. They might. Who knows with Florida's luck? Florida could easily move on and end up being the East champs again. But I'm going Mississippi State here. Georgia's probably about a year away. Well,
this was definitely tough because I'm an LSU fan on the outside just because I don't know. I just love, I love their stadium. I've never been there, but everything that they're about except for how terrible and lethargic they are in offense. And so I've always followed LSU and definitely picked them last week, and I learned my lesson there again. Granted, it's different for me because Georgia's play Notre Dame. Obviously, I'm a Notre Dame fan, and Notre Dame has had an amazing rushing attack this year, except against Georgia. Georgia held them, I believe it was under 70 yards rushing, and they rushed, I believe it was like 25 times at least, something like that. So Mississippi State really beat up LSU on the ground, and it's at Georgia. I'm not saying I trust Georgia's freshman quarterback, but I'm trusting Georgia to clip Mississippi State. I do think that it'll be a close game. I see a field goal or so, but it'll be very close. I think Georgia, as long as they can stop the rushing attack, they will win. If not, then it would be Mississippi State. But I'm sticking with Georgia.
Okay. I mean, it is a home game. Was that clip reference? Because whenever you play Georgia, it's called like Down in the Hedges. Is that what you're throwing out? Okay.
Yes, it is.
And yeah, back to your LSU comment. I mean, obviously went to the B-Dubs Bowl, which was awesome, and we supported LSU.
That's great.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just impressed with Mississippi State. I'm probably on the board of everybody else who's overreacting to that game, but who cares? I'm going to roll the dice with their quarterback and their coach right now.
He's amazing.
Washington versus Colorado is my last one here that I picked up. Washington 10.5-point favorites. Colorado's undefeated right now, kind of flying under the radar, and that's why I think this could be a really interesting game. What do you think about this one?
So, it's tough because Washington really you just haven't heard much of either this year, especially after how they played Rutgers in the opener. So, the spread is pretty tough. I think I would go ahead and take Colorado on the spread. I think it's going to be a close game. I will give it to Washington though, just because, if they decide to punt it to Pettis, he has a streak of 3 games in a row to where he's had a punt return for a touchdown. So
really, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, and I think that could be the determining factor. Not necessarily him getting a touchdown, but flipping the field. And Colorado's is definitely a tough team. They've proven that so far this year. So I'm going to go with Washington, but I do believe Colorado will cover.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, this is tough because part of me wants to say Washington's going to struggle in this game, enough to be under the 10.5 points. But I'm going to go ahead and say they cover and win. I'm going to say probably 13 to 17 points, so not by much. But I think they're definitely the better team.
It's a statement game, I think. It's a statement game for them.
Yeah, they struggled against Rutgers, which, that's not a great team to struggle, to show up and struggle against. But they still won by, 16 in that game or something along those lines. So I think they'll play a lot better than that against Colorado. They have to win, and especially if they're trying to win by, double digits here. But, I'm going to stick with Washington, but that's a tough game. If you're picking that, you might want to stay away from that one this weekend because I think that could be a tough game to choose. So with that being said, guys, thanks a lot for joining us on another episode of the Sports Trigger, and until next time.